Church, Pastor Alan, First United Methodist Church, Georgetown. It is good to see you, and I'm excited to share with you some updates about the work of the building committee over the last year. This video is going to be long. This is not a 10-minute update video. And so if you do not have the time for a video like this, and you just need to get your access to the information, we've created a website for you at FUMCGT.org/building. At that website, you'll find images and cost estimates and some information about the various projects that we're looking to do. You may want to open that now as you're listening to this video and kind of follow along if you'd like. So friends, why now? Why now? Why do we need to take on these big projects? Why do we need to do this work that is going to be hard and it's going to take us years? Well, part of my answer looks back on the last 4 years of our congregation and the work that we've already done, the hard work that we've already done. You emerged out of COVID. You emerged out of a global pandemic after a long closure. Remember that during that time, we started over in the FUMC for all worship because we were in the middle of another big project, the HVAC 2021 work, where the sanctuary got a new air conditioner. I arrived in July of 21, and I didn't lead worship in the sanctuary until the end of October. That was a long time. We also went through a season in the United Methodist Church of disaffiliations, and we went through that well, and we went through that together and united. You chose unity over uniformity. You chose that our work is bigger and greater than all of us raising our hand to see if we're right or wrong on an issue. I'm so proud of the work that you did during that season. Because of the decision that we made not to vote, not to split, not to have winners and losers, we're a stronger church today than we were before. There's not many churches, friends, that can say that right now, that they're stronger now after this season of disaffiliation. We also added a second full-time elder. 2 years ago, Pastor Tina joined us, and she has led us to organize our missions work and to organize a new M&M ministry with senior adults and really filled out our work here as a church. So now we have celebrated our 175th birthday, and we begin this healthy work of passing along what we've been doing to the next generation. And that's something that a healthy church is always doing, always looking to hand down and hand over and continue this work for the next 175 years. One of the images that I have in my mind as we think about this large capital funds work is the process of selling a house. Have you sold a house? Tracy and I have sold a few as we're itinerant ministry people moving around. I'm remembering a house we sold in Granbury. It was a house that we lived in for about 3 years. And you know, at the end of when it's time to sell, the realtor walks you around and kind of points at things that you may know about, and then some things you may not know about. A list begins to emerge of things that you need to do before you put the house on the market, before you hand over the keys to the next family that's going to live in your space. In Granbury, I had a green wall in my computer room. It was like a pure dark green wall, and the realtor walked in and said, "That's a terrible color. You're gonna have to paint that now." and I agreed with her eventually. But friends, we have, as the congregation, a list that has been growing over the last many years, things that we need to tend to, things that we need to address, as well as some new opportunities for who we are today, some new energies and new areas of growth that we need to tend to. So in my mind, we're going to be doing this work together in preparation of handing the keys off to the next generation at First United Methodist Church. One of the things that we do not want to hand over is unsustainable, crushing debt. We do not want to get in over our heads with what we're working on. We're familiar with congregations. I have served congregations that got themselves into so much debt that it began to hurt their ministry. Facilities are important. Facilities are a foundation of your ministry, but sometimes your debt service can get so high that you have to reduce staff and reduce ministry spending and missions spending. We don't want to do that. Right now, as a congregation, we're in a healthy place when it comes to debt services. We do have some debt. We have $591,000 of debt. That is, in our annual budget, about $101,000 of annual payments on that debt, which is about 4.34% of our budget towards debt services. 4% is a really nice place. Texas Methodist Foundation, other people who would consult with us about debt and debt services in your budget would usually say when you get over 15%, you're getting to an unhealthy place. So we want to keep that number low. We do not want to hand over millions and millions and millions of dollars of debt. Our friends down in Round Rock have just recently gone through a debt reduction campaign. Their sanctuary debt was around $5 million, and they're going to pay that off in the next couple of years after a big campaign led by the same consultant that we're going to use here. My friend Brad Britton led that church through that. That's going to open up avenues of ministry for that congregation for years into the future. So please hear me say, we're going to be talking about big numbers. We're going to be talking about millions and millions of dollars. But at the same time, we want to pace ourselves appropriately so that we do not end up in a place where we're handing over large debt to somebody else. So friends, I believe that now is the time to come together. Now is the time to address these needs, address these additions for our future. There is a high spirit in the congregation. There's a high level of trust between the congregation and the staff, and we can't let this pass us by now in this moment. So how did we get here today? How did we get where we are today with our ideas for the possible options that we're going to address? A task force was put together in the summer of 2023 to begin looking around our ministry campus, our various buildings and projects, and to look at the things that we needed to begin to look at. That work led to a charge conference in November of 2023 where we named a building committee. And that building committee has been working this last year to put these pieces together. That building committee is chaired by Jason Habengrather. Jason is the right leader for this moment in this congregation. He has a least anxious presence model. He's willing to listen to different viewpoints. He's helped us make some decisions in the last year that have guided this entire process in a really healthy manner. I'm so thankful for Jason and the work that he's doing, as well as the rest of the building committee. The rest of the building committee, Barbara Pierce, Vance Mitchell, Wilson Morris, Nicole Bruckner, Linda Peters, Jennifer Lake, and John Brunk, as well as Pastor Jim and myself have been working on that committee. We have put together a team of experienced professionals to help guide us through these next few years. That's been the big work of the last year. The first piece of that team was Horizons Stewardship. Horizons is our capital funds campaign consultant, led by Richard Rogers, is going to be our consultant. Richard Rogers could be a familiar name. He led our annual stewardship campaign this time last year, a successful campaign. So we have some relationship with him. We have some trust with him. He's already leading us now into the new capital funds campaign for next year. Then we found an architect to work with. We interviewed 2 architects, and no one on the building committee was ready to just jump up and down with joy for either one. And I'm so thankful that we made the decision to pause that process and to start over with new architect candidates. Both of them were incredibly exciting. And we had a hard time picking the one that we're using, which is GFF. GFF is out of Plano. They have a faith-based division, a division that works with churches, that works with nonprofits. They have historic building architects on their team to work with us. And so they're out of Plano. They're working on our master plan right now. They're working on 3D renderings right now, doing a wonderful job. And then the third part of this team is a project management firm. Project management is needed in this project because we have so many different things going on at the same time, so many different types of works. We need people that can help communicate with the contractors, with the architects, with the city, that can help lay out a timeline for us to do our very best. A project management firm will save us time and keep us on track, and then also save us money. Typically, a project management firm will find a couple of points in the project where they help redirect us and save great amounts of money. And so we're expecting that with CPM. CPM is our project management firm out of Austin. One of the reasons we selected them is that they do an internal survey annually to test the market and to know about current markets. They talk to contractors, they talk to subs, they get a lot of different figures and numbers so that when they start to talk preliminary budgets with us, they have really localized, accurate information. So CPM, we've been meeting with them every other week. They've begun to put together this preliminary budget and these numbers that we're going to look at here in just a few moments. So what is being proposed? We've said this before, but this project is a little unique in that it's not one thing. It's not that we're building a sanctuary or we're building a parsonage. It is a host of different ideas and options and projects. Some of them are pure renovation. We've got an old, aged, rusted HVAC system that needs to be replaced. And it's going to be some new build and some new options and new things for our congregation. I'm looking at two different lines right now, two things that kind of lead us as we think about all of this put it together. One is our future needs now. Our future needs now. And my grammar friends would want to put a comma in there. Our future needs, comma, now. But I don't want that comma because I think that the future of this congregation needs the courage and the work and the unity that we have right now for the work in the future. I think the decisions we're going to make and the work that we're going to do is going to change the trajectory of what this congregation can do. So our future needs, the needs now. The other is facilities for all. Facilities for all, for me, means that we're helping to build and grow a church that is for young families with babies and children and strollers. And we're building and renovating a church for the safety of our seniors, for mobility. We're thinking about restrooms that are needed in certain strategic areas. So facilities for all, for everyone to be able to worship here, to be in our classes, and to be encouraged as we go out into the community. So we're going to look at some preliminary budget costs, and I want to give some explanation to that. These are not just construction costs. These are construction plus. It is all in numbers. And so the numbers that we're looking at that CPM, our project managers, have helped put together for us include the cost for professional services, for soft costs. Soft costs might be the tables and the chairs and the desks and the things that you need. And then also a lot of contingencies. This far away from your project, you have a lot of contingencies built into your project. It even includes what they call escalations, meaning that inflation could play a role. If we set numbers now and we get to something 18 months from now, what does that look like? And so I'm thankful that we've done this healthy work of putting together a robust budget so that we don't get ahead of ourselves. There's a church in Austin that went through a capital funds campaign, and they were looking at $6 million. They got to the point of their construction to find out that it was a $12 million plus budget. And so what do you do with that? So although these numbers are large, I'm excited that we're looking at the full numbers now and not going to be adding to it later down the road. We're also looking at 3D renderings. We're looking at pictures. You've probably already been scrolling and looking at these pictures as I've been talking. These are master plan images. These are big picture ideas. These are opportunities. These are things we could do, but they're not detailed schematic plans for exactly what's going to be built. So what does that mean? It means that I like to ask questions. I asked the architects about the trees that were in the images. Which trees exactly does that represent? What type of tree is that? And they said, Alan, we're not yet to that point. There will be a tree survey later. There'll be times to put in all of those details. We've had some people in staff look at these images and say, well, the sound booth needs to be here and not here. And then to learn that it's not yet time to know exactly where a sound booth is going to be. We haven't picked color schemes yet. So if you don't like the colors, or you're thinking, why did we choose those colors? We're not yet into color schemes. So we're in big picture thinking right now as we look at these ideas and these images and these 3D renderings. There's 5 major areas for the work that we're going to try to focus on. The first is the biggie. The first is the one that is the lead priority. It's the thing that we really don't get to decide if we're going to do it or not do it, and that is the major renovation of the HVAC in the main education building. In the main education building, this is the 3-floor structure. This includes the office space. It includes all of the Sunday school classes. It includes the mezzanine floor where the choir meets and the handbells meet. That entire space has an old, outdated HVAC system. I don't know all the lingo, but it's the 2-pipe system that is either on cold or on heat. And it takes several days to switch between one and the other. This is a system that has rusty pipes all throughout the system. We've had contractors come to us here in the last few years to say, you need to replace this joint, you need to replace this piece, but it's so rusty that we don't want to get into it. We don't want to try to do something that might cause a major failure. Mike Robertson has been trained, our facilities director has been trained on how to turn all of the water off should a pipe burst, and we have incredible flooding in the rooms, in the walls. It is just something that's just kind of sitting there, and it won't be a major deal until it's a major deal. So this is a significant piece of the project cost. All in, again, with all of the contingencies and everything, we're being told it would be about $5.3 million to replace all of that HVAC. That is a huge number. That is a leading number. That is a number where we're going to look at it and go, whoa, what are we going to do to get that together? One of the people I was talking to last week looked at that number and said, that number is a bummer. and I guess it is. How did they get to that number? There was a 2019 bid for that work that was submitted to the building committee several years ago. And then they escalated that. They increased that about 35%. That's about where they got to that. So again, friends, this is a big number. This is something we're going to do together, but it's a significant priority for our day-to-day ministry. This building touches all of the groups, all of the committees, everything that we do. It's going to be a significant part of what we need. Just to the side of that is going to be other renovation work that needs to be done in the education building. So think of the floors, think of the walls, maybe relocating some walls to right size some of our Sunday school classes. There's some work that we'll be doing. That total all in is about $2.1 million. And we kind of want to see that as 2 separate things at the moment, but it's good to kind of see those together at the same time. So the education building is a big leading part of it. From there, we want to look at the MCMC, the McKinney Ministry Center. There's 3 main focal points in the MCMC. A lot of these touch the contemporary worship service. A lot of these touch some of the young families and new growth that we're seeing in the congregation. We're adding new chairs in the MCMC for that 1045 service. There's a lot of excitement. The first is that we want to offer a nursery in the MCMC. We need a nursery where parents can drop their kids off and go immediately into worship. Right now, the nursery is at the very corner of our ministry property in the main building. That is, and yes, I counted, 190 steps from the door to the MCMC to the door of the nursery. Let's take a second to just look and see what that looks like. So you see, it's a pretty great distance that we ask our sometimes new families, people who are dropping off their children for the first time, to walk. It's about 2 minutes and 15 seconds to walk straight from one corner to the next. On Sunday mornings when I finish preaching in the middle of the service, I'm already seeing families exit and will begin to walk that journey to go pick up their child. So we want to put a nursery in the northwest corner of the MCMC. This will be an addition. This will be an add-on to the building, and will be turn 190 steps into 9 steps away, so that parents will have immediate access to their children. We think that's important. Also, we want to turn what looks like a gym into what looks like a worship space. It's time to give the emphasis and the importance to our 1045 contemporary service. We need to do some work in there so that as you enter into the space, you know this is a space for worship. We're going to continue to keep it as a large meeting space. It'll still be a place for Rotary, for receptions, for children and youth to run around and play games in there. But there's some things that we can do with the stage and the lighting and the painting. There's some things that we can do to make it a more beautiful worship space. There are plans along the west wall where it's all the cinder blocks to open that space up to have windows and doors and entry points so that people can flow in and out of that space. Another third part for the MCMC is a gathering patio, a gathering space that would be just outside the MCMC, in between where the nursery is, a place where you can have a small group, a place where you can meet people before and after worship, you can drink your coffee, to have more gathering and connection places within the MCMC. We're really excited about this possibility of helping these families connect, giving them the hospitality that they deserve for their children, for the nurseries, and to help that congregation, that service grow more. Next, we're going to turn to the sanctuary. There's some work that you know has been needed in the sanctuary for some time, and that work begins with mobility, accessibility. We've got too many steps. The steps are at different levels. The steps, some of them are even crooked. It's time to go in and raise up some of the places so that we can add ramps, so that there's fewer steps, especially around the back side of the sanctuary. We need to make that a place that's safer for our members to walk around. We also want to replace the pews. The pews, unfortunately, are beyond repair. We've had some people give us that counsel several years ago. That's why some of the green cushy chairs are still in there to kind of replace those pews. We're going to replace the pews. We're going to spread them out appropriately. You'll notice they're so close to each other, and your knees hit as you try to walk into those pews. So we're going to be able to replace some of them, spread them out just a little bit. We want to address the chancel to try and find a way to bring the choirs together into one. If you've sung in a choir before, you know it's so difficult to have two different groups trying to sing together. And we want to add about a foot or two to the front of the chancel, which should allow our choir to come together, rearrange those risers that they have. We want to have some extra space for these occasional events where we have a lot of orchestra, a lot of extra players there on the front. And then also part of the sanctuary accessibility is access to a restroom. Right now, if a member needs to use the restroom, we ask them to go down an elevator and to go down a set of stairs to go to some restrooms. The plan is to add a set of restrooms where the current office workroom is, where the copy machine is, that area right there. That would allow people to immediately walk just outside the door of the sanctuary to have access to a restroom. We believe that there are members that are currently not attending our service because they know that sometimes they need a restroom and they don't have time to go downstairs, they don't have time to use an elevator. It'll also help us in the mornings as we've got people traveling in and out to have an extra restroom there. So sanctuary accessibility, that's a little over $1 million. I don't think I mentioned the McKinney number. That's $1.87 million. You can see that, though, there. All right, we've got two more. And this is a long video. I told you, y'all are doing great. You're paying attention. The next thing we want to look at is a gathering patio and a walkway just outside our sanctuary. You know that we don't have that traditional narthex, a gathering space where people meet before and after worship. It's been kind of something we've been trying to figure out for several years now. And working with our architects, we are planning a large gathering patio just north of where the playground is, and along that walkway. And this would be a place where we can have picnic tables. It's a place that could be used for small groups to meet and gather, but it's going to serve as a place to meet before and after worship. Our architects have been encouraging us to build a space where people know where the entrance is. Right now, if you're not familiar with our campus, you're not exactly sure what door you need to go in. What is the front door of the church? This is also going to help with connecting the sanctuary side with the MC side. We want to see more of a flow that looks like one ministry campus and not two separate buildings. One of the things that I'm very interested in is an idea for a large raised walkway, a large raised, almost like it would be a walkway from one side of the street to the other. You might see this like at Wolf Ranch in their parking lots. Think of a long, wide speed bump, something that's on the same level. Right now, we ask our members to go down into the gutter and then back up into, and it's quite dangerous to travel from one side of the street to the other. So gathering patio and walkway. This is a point where I can say that this is a master plan, and so the image that we're looking at is missing a few things. What you're not seeing in that image are handrails. What you're not seeing in that image is a ramp that would come down from that side to go across the street. Some of you are looking at the playground, and you're looking at that fence, and the fence has these kind of arrowed, sharp points on it. And we're not going to have that for the children. But it's a good point to just kind of mention again that these are large master plan type pictures. So gathering patio, walkway, a gathering space for the congregation before and after worship, about $772,000. And then finally, we've had plans and dreams to have a prayer chapel for some time. So we want to build a multi-purpose prayer chapel. This would be 2,000 square feet. This would have the capacity to host about 40 people for services. And this particular idea has the highest variance in our budget. So there's a low number and a high number. A low number of $700,000 and a high number of $1.5 million, just depending on how traditional and how beautiful and how tall and how many stained glass windows, those kind of things that we actually want to put into this chapel. One of the main uses of this chapel would be for children's ministry on Sunday morning. Right now, the children leave our 1045 worship and our 1110 worship, and they go into a Sunday school classroom where they bring in bins to set up their worship space. The children leave not to go play games and to do crafts. They actually leave to go learn about worship and be in worship together. So they could instead have a dedicated space in this prayer chapel where they would go in and have this time. A prayer chapel could be used for smaller funerals. Sometimes we have funerals of only 15 and 20 people, and it feels a little strange to have them in the large sanctuary. This could be a space for them. This could be a space for small weddings. The picture right now that you see would open up the side walls to allow kind of a gathering space before and after events. I would see groups in the community using this. We've got some community groups that use some older buildings, and they could move into this space. So we're excited about this possibility, a multi-purpose prayer chapel. Again, I mentioned that the variation of cost, the construction costs, are from about $700,000 to $1.5. In the middle of there, including all of the extras, would be about $2.4 million. I hope that was clear. The total cost, friends, if we were to do all of this at one time, would be $13.6 million. That'd be preliminary costs the professional services, the soft costs, the contingencies, all of those. In that number is a figure to fill out the white annex building that is just across the street from the playground. That white annex building has been gutted. It is just sticks in there. And while that's not a lead priority right now, we wanted to get some numbers and some figures from our project managers to ask what would it cost to simply make that like a 2-room building with a simple kitchen, with restrooms, some workable, usable space that the church could use in the future. And they came back with some figures, again, that they were looking at a few years ago, of about $350,000 to fill out, to finish out that space. We know that we need that plan in our long-term planning because right now it's just simply an abandoned building. And it needs a use, and we need an answer and a plan on what to do with that. And so, again, that's not a lead priority for us at the moment, but we are thinking about that and planning about that down the future. Just to put this in here quickly, the Hope House and the Gethsemane property are currently not in this conversation. They are both things that could use some addressing. There are some questions to answer. But for the sake of trying our best to kind of focus on what we're doing, right now we're not looking at that, not addressing that. Okay, friends, we've looked at our various projects. We've looked at a very large number of $13.6 million. Let's talk about the next few months. Horizon Stewardship is currently working on a feasibility study. The feasibility study will go up until December, where their team will help us determine what they think we could raise in a public capital funds campaign. So we're going to invite families to make 3-year commitment towards these projects. A very healthy, a very strong campaign, one that we would celebrate and have streamers for, would be about $7 million. Okay? So a really good campaign would be about $7 million. But we don't yet know how much we could raise. It could be that we have some members in the congregation that bring gifts that change that number so that we can get closer to the 13.6 million. And so you'll start hearing that in December and January. The building committee and the leaders of the church will begin to discern priority order, things that we need to do first. You've heard me talk about the HVAC, but we could do HVAC plus maybe 1 or 2 things in maybe a first phase. And then maybe save some others for a second phase. Again, we're not wanting to get into a lot of debt. And at this moment, at this point, we don't yet know that number of what we could raise. And so there are more decisions to be made down the road. We want to match what we can do with what we can raise. At that point, probably in January, we would re-engage the architects to begin planning and schematic drawings, those detailed plannings where we know how many outlets there are and what color things are, to put that together. And then after Easter, so Easter is on April 20th this next year. After Easter, we would have our public capital funds campaign. That's where we would all talk together about this and we would pray about this, and there would be estimate giving cards, pledge cards, where your family would be asked to submit an amount that you'd be willing to give for the next 3 years as part of this. There's also some book of discipline process in there. There's a church meeting where the church votes on the total package that we're going to look at for that, if we were to call it a first phase. There's a South District meeting. There's meetings with the district superintendent. There's a lot of things to go on between now and then. We're at the very beginning of that in many ways. And again, we're going to do all of this at the pace that we can. If we can raise $7 million, we'll raise $7 million, and we'll wait for the other parts another day. If we can raise $10 million, we'll do $10 million worth of work, and we'll save the rest. So some of that still has, has to come up later. In all, friends, in all, we want to do this work with joy and with teamwork. There is a joy in this congregation right now. There is a joy in our work We are finding leaders, putting leaders in position that work with joy. Our staff wants to do our best at being joyful. It is okay to do hard work and to make hard decisions and enjoy the process at the same time. There's a joy in this journey. I believe God is giving us incredible gifts right now in talent, in energy, in what we're able to do as a congregation in ministry and serving the community. We're going to keep doing all of that. And my commitment to you is that we're going to try to do our best to communicate with you. That's part of the reason I just spent a day putting this video together, and my friend Jessica's right over there, and we called her in to help me make this video, and it's long. And thank you for listening. All of this to try to do our best to communicate. You're a congregation of 12 and 1,300 members. There's a lot of leaders. There's a lot of people that are going to want input. And so we'll just do our best to try and put together what we believe that God's calling us to do in the future. Friends, if you have any questions about what you have seen, please reach out and ask. You can talk to the building committee members. You can catch me. I love a good cup of cold brew coffee at a local coffee shop and would love to sit down and consume that with you and look at any questions that you might have. So friends, I know this was a long video. If you're here at the very end with us, let me know that you made it to the end, and I appreciate you. I'm so proud of the work that we've done, and I am excited about walking alongside you in the next few years as we address all of this as best we can. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.